Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Nix and Bean stories. This is going to be my 26 to 28 week pregnancy update. A lot has gone on this last 2 weeks. As you can tell by the title, we had a bit of a scare, but I'll get into all of those details as we go through the video. So starting off with week 26, was pretty good. Like, I had a pretty good week, no symptoms really. It was a pretty easy week. I got to do what I needed to do around the house. I had energy, I wasn't exhausted, so that was pretty good. And I also had a midwife appointment at 26 weeks and 5 days, just to check up on things. It would have been my 27-week midwife appointment, and with that appointment everything went fairly normal, except that they found a bit of protein in my urine, which was the first time ever that there's ever been protein in my urine. With my daughter, I've never had any sort of issue in that area, and so they had to do a whole bunch of blood tests to check for preeclampsia. Thankfully that all came back negative, so for right now I do not have preeclampsia, which is awesome. And yeah, then she did my bundle height measurement, and I was measuring in at 27.5 weeks with my bundle height, so I was measuring exactly a week ahead, which was good because the main concern with this pregnancy is growth restriction. So knowing that my uterus was big enough to cater for baby, it was like, it's a bonus. Also, what else did she do? She did my weight. And I've gained a total of, how much have I gained? 9 kgs. I'm not too sure how much that is in pounds, but I've gained 9 kgs, which is insane. But if you take into consideration that I am very tiny, and before I got pregnant I was way underweight, like completely underweight, so that 9 kgs has just put me back up at a really healthy weight. So I'm really happy that I've gained that much weight and that I'm continuing to gain weight. So yeah, so overall the midwife appointment went fine. It's just their protein, and that was it. Also, oh yes, so we scheduled our growth ultrasound for that same day because she said she'd rather get it done sooner than later. Just to kind of check where everything is with the 2-vessel cord and the hematoma that I have. So that afternoon they booked us in, and we got in to see sweet baby boy, and we tried to do a 3D scan, but it was just not working for us. His hands were like all up in his face, so there was no way that we could get a good picture. I think we got like a picture of his nose and his mouth, but it wasn't even clear enough to see, like you're still kind of looking for it. So that didn't work out in our favour, but we did get to see him, and he's growing as he should. He is currently measuring a week behind, and his legs are measuring 2 weeks behind, which is very funny because that means he's got like short tiny little legs, but the rest of his body measures up to par, with just being like about a week behind, which is fine, because I think they don't start, it's not a concern until you hit that 2 to 3 weeks behind mark. So yeah, but everything else with him looks great. He was head down at that ultrasound and everything went good. Yeah, so we couldn't really complain with the growth scan, and they didn't find anything that was any alarming, so I do not need to be referred to the maternal fetal medicine doctors, thankfully. So they just said that we're just going to keep up with the regular growth scans and see what comes from it. If they pick up anything, then obviously they'll take it from there. But for right now, he's doing great. So the drama started at 26 weeks and 6 days, which was the next day. It was a Tuesday, so last Tuesday. I was going about my day, had a completely good day. Wasn't doing anything strenuous. I was actually a bit tired that day, to be honest. Exhaustion hit that day. And after lunch I started feeling a bit sick, and I haven't had morning sickness from about 20 weeks, so it was kind of weird that it just sprung up on me in that moment. And so I was like, oh, I'm not feeling so good. So when my daughter went down to for her nap, I decided to have a lay down with her, just so that I could kind of just rest and see if that will kind of like ease the nausea and see what happens. And I was experiencing some Braxton Hicks at this point, but honestly, like I've said in my previous videos, Braxton Hicks is nothing new to me. It's kind of just what I go through from my day to day, and so I was experiencing them like normal that day. So during my nap, I woke up to a cramp. So it was a tightening plus a menstrual cramp, but also pain in my back, and more so in my back than in my front. And I remember with my daughter, I had back labor. I'll do a separate labor and delivery video of her labor and delivery, but I had back labor with her. And so this pain sort of felt very familiar. And so I was like, oh dear. And so I was like, yeah, let's just take it easy and see what happens throughout the rest of the afternoon. So this was around about 3:30 p.m. and at that point I rested. I got up after about an hour, and they were still coming, and at this point they were coming about every 6 to 8 minutes. And so I started getting concerned, because I was like, okay, that's not regular Braxton Hicks. Usually my Braxton Hicks come like every 20 minutes if they like on a regular basis, but this never this quickly after each other. So I decided to go downstairs and just pace, because like sometimes pacing helps me, and just like being on my birthing ball helps me just when I'm having those aches and pains. And I called my husband and I said, hey, I'm having these pains and I'm not too sure like what to think of them, and they're more in my back than in my front, and some of them are coming with tightenings, others aren't coming with tightenings. Like I have no idea what's going on. And at that moment I also called my midwife, because I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be better safe than sorry, because I was only 26 weeks and 6 days at this point. So I couldn't get a hold of my midwife. She was off call all week. So luckily we had a backup midwife, which is her backup, and I called her, and she said to basically, since it's been going since 3:30 and this was about 6:30 p.m, she was like, yeah, let's go to the hospital. It's better to be safe than sorry, and get you checked there, and they'll put you on the monitors. They'll do like an NST type thing and a CCG on baby, and just make sure that he's doing okay while I'm having these contractions. And so I was like, okay. And so immediately I went to the hospital. Before that I did try getting into the bath, but they were coming faster in the bath, so I knew that something was up. So anyway, on the way to the hospital, my mother-in-law took me to the hospital. My husband met me there because he was still at work. And my sister took my daughter, and we were in hospital for the rest of the week. So it turned out that I was having preterm labor contractions. So things got a bit crazy in the hospital that night. Things happened very, very, very quickly. So I was having these contractions back and forth, and they ended up coming to check me for dilation. Sorry if this gets TMI in any way. So they checked me for dilation, and I wasn't dilated at that point. I was still pretty close, but they said my cervix had shortened. So they needed to do an ultrasound at that point to see how short my cervix actually was. And so they did the ultrasound, and my cervix was at a 1.3 centimeters. And usually in a healthy, normal pregnancy, your cervix is anywhere between like 3.5 to 5 centimeters. So mine was a 1.3. And I'm talking about the length, not the dilation. And they also noticed that his cord was coming out first. So basically his cord was on my cervix, his head was right there, but the cord was first, which means that if my water broke in that moment, I would be at risk for a prolapse cord, and that is when the cord exits first and there's not like it breaks down the oxygen to baby, puts him at risk, which means it's an immediate C-section, emergency C-section scenario where they need to get him out as soon as possible. And so that was very, very scary. So the minute they did that ultrasound and realized the cord was in the way, they rushed me to L&D and started giving me steroid shots because it was early. They started giving me amphetamine, which is to stop the contractions from happening, because obviously we didn't want this to happen. We didn't want to go into preterm labor or full-blown preterm labor. So they were giving me amphetamine. I think it was like every 10 minutes, just to pop a pill in and try and get the contractions to stop. And it didn't work at first, and then around 3 a.m. in the morning, the amphetamine had finally kicked in. At this point, I only had 1 dose of steroids injected into my leg, and those injections hurt quite a bit. Like, I didn't realize how much it hurts. It's basically, it's just like, it does something to your muscle, like cramps your muscle up while you get in the injection, and it's quite painful. But anyway, with the amount of pain that I was in, I didn't really care at that point. And so at around 3 a.m. the contractions finally started to die down, and I had just hit the 27-week mark at this point. So I started out my 27 weeks in a very interesting way, because it was after midnight. So they checked me at 3:30, and I was only half a centimeter dilated. So they said that was really good, because it means that they have time, basically. So the contractions had completely stopped by 4 a.m. that morning, and they kept me on the L&D ward with a midwife that was there, just to monitor me, just to make sure the contractions didn't come back, and to make sure I wasn't dilating any more than what I already was. And everything seemed to be going good. So around 8 a.m. they took me for another ultrasound, and they said that the cord is now out of the way, which puts me at low risk versus high risk of needing a C-section. And so they said, okay, now that he's head down and that the cord's out the way, even though his head was on my cervix, and my cervix was still measuring around 2 centimeters that morning, because the contractions had completely stopped, so there was no pressure on my cervix. So now it was still measuring 2. And so it was like and then they decided to just put me on the ward, on the maternity ward, keep an eye on me over the next day, and also give me another steroid shot at 1 a.m. the next morning, just to kind of see if the contractions could hold off by itself. They continue giving me amphetamine every 6 hours, or like a whole dose and then a half a dose of amphetamine, just to kind of keep the contractions at bay, because I was still getting cramps, but not full-blown contractions at this point. So Wednesday, everything was perfect, everything was fine. I was in hospital, they were monitoring me, so they monitored baby. He was doing amazing, he was moving around, and midwives love it when baby moves around, and sorry, they love it when baby moves around, and you know, like, their heart rate's good and these accelerations and all of that good stuff. So he was doing perfect in there. And the next day, which was Thursday, around 11:30 a.m. my contractions kicked back in, and my contractions were all in my back once again. So it was the same sort of thing I was experiencing on Tuesday. They gave me the amphetamine at around 12, and it did nothing. Like, it didn't stop the contractions, so the contractions kept coming every 5 minutes, and it came every 5 minutes till about 9 p.m. when they checked me again for dilation, after they gave me another dose of amphetamine around 6 p.m. So I was contracting all day again, and they were like, we don't know what's going on with your body right now, but I wasn't dilating, and that was the main thing, was that I wasn't dilating. So they could actually just kind of stop the contractions, and they wouldn't have to do anything further. So around 9 p.m. the contractions died down, and I could eventually get some sleep, because they hurt, man. And so yeah, that was on that Thursday night. And then I basically had a really, really good night's sleep that night. They gave me one last dose of steroids that night, and then they also gave me a last amphetamine pill, and then that was it for, I think that was Friday morning around 1 a.m. and then that was it. And so basically from there they had to make sure that my body could do this, like not contract anymore, and like basically stop itself from contracting or going into early labor. So they monitored me, and thank goodness the contractions stayed away, and I was able to go home on Friday afternoon, which was perfect because I was away from my daughter for 3 days at this point, and like I had a bit of mommy guilt, even though I knew I needed to be in the hospital. Like, he was my main concern, especially if he was going to come early. It would be the best place for me to be. So I had to kind of just suck it up and be like, you need to be here for this baby too. So yeah, but I was really, really happy to go home on Friday and to be with my husband and be with my daughter and be with my family. But it was a scary, scary week. And I still can't believe that it was a week ago that all of this stuff happened. It was pretty insane. I hope that we don't have to experience it again. For right now, I'm kind of on a watch. So they said because my body was trying to go into preterm labor, it's most likely that I will have this baby slightly earlier, especially since my cervix has already started shortening. But we're looking at the positive and saying as long as he makes it past 34 weeks, we will be stoked. So my personal aim is to get to 34 weeks, and every week after that is like a bonus. And if he goes till his due date and after his due date, I'll be like over the moon, just because like I prefer that over having him this early. I want him to grow and fatten up and have his brain grow and all of that stuff while he's still in my belly, so that when he's born I don't have to be in hospital. I can actually come home and just enjoy him. So that's the plan for now, is to just monitor me. I'm on semi bed rest. They're not enforcing bed rest, but they're kind of saying just take it easy, like don't do a lot of stuff. So don't vacuum the house, don't clean the house, don't do anything that's gonna exhaust yourself, and when you get tired just have rest. So I'm very thankful for my husband and my family, because they pulled together so much in this last week, just to take care of my daughter and to take care of the house and just taking care of me and visiting me and seeing if I'm okay and all of that good stuff. So I'm very, very, very thankful to my family for everything that they've done for me this last week. So yeah, so that was my crazy 27 week update for you. 28 weeks has been, I guess that's part of the 28 weeks, is just I'm trying to get back onto my feet a bit, just doing things slowly, taking it easy. But I haven't had any more painful contractions, which I am thankful for. I've had my Braxton Hicks, but nothing out of the ordinary for me right now. I really want to make it past New Year's and into 2017, so I'm going to take it as easy as I can. So yeah, and Christmas holidays are coming up, so everyone's home, so it makes my life a lot easier. But yeah, so that's the update for 26 to 28 weeks. So I'm 28 weeks today. Every day that passes, I am so grateful to be pregnant and to still have this baby in my belly. But other than that, I don't think there's much else to update on. That was a pretty big update. So we'll probably do just a belly shot and the belly from the front and from the side. And the other side. And this is with the shift up. So he is super, super low. He's all over here. We'll just measure it. see what we're doing this week. Sorry. So we're measuring just over so just about 100.5 centimeters, which I think is around like 39.5 inches. But that's the belly shot. I'm getting huge.